Classic Game Shrine, everyone. Today I'm going to do a top 10 list of the top 10 most memorable games that I played with my father on the NES. It's kind of hard being so far away from my family now, and I've been feeling a bit nostalgic for them and the days when my father and I would sit around the NES and just game together. So I hope you all enjoy this video as much as I did making it.
Gradius. This difficult space shooter was almost always on when I was a kid. This game was the first game I ever learned a cheat code for, too. Most call it the Contra code, but it originated in Gradius. I never got far as a kid, but my dad was always able to get much further than me. At the time, I always felt like his co-pilot. He was always into space stuff, so this was a must-have in our NES library. Legend of Zelda. I mean, who didn't grow up with this game in their household? Despite me not being a fanatic over the Zelda series now, this game was one of my favorites as a kid. It was like going on an adventure, and I was able to sit there with my dad and watch him defeat the various dungeons, all the while I would make up my own silly names for the enemies. One of my favorites was the enemy that was a dragon with like 3 heads. And I remember getting in trouble for calling one of the enemies suckers. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? You heard me touch on this game in my review of it recently, but I can't stress how often my dad played this game when I was a kid. Roger Rabbit was a film we all loved in that household, so being able to play the movie was a huge appeal to us. We would spend countless hours punching NPCs and driving Benny the cab everywhere. My dad never beat the game, but I managed to beat it for my review of it, and asking my dad today if he would go back and play it again, he says he enjoyed it and would definitely go back again and play it. Jaws. My dad and I were into horror movies, whether they were blockbusters or B-movies. Jaws kind of fit into both of those categories. My dad loved the story of the movie, and me being the weird child that I was, I loved the shark. I always rooted for him. I'd often watch my dad play this and yell at him when Jaws came on the screen or the baby sharks came on the screen and he had to kill them. I will say though, I fondly remember the bonus scene when you were in the airplane having to drop bombs on the jellyfish. Super Mario Bros. 2. It was my dad's favorite NES game. He had this insane skill while playing as Luigi that I could never master, so I always chose Peach. In World 4, you're in the snow world, and those little marshmallow guys were the most adorable things to me, and once again, I got upset at my dad when he'd kill them. I know guys, I was a weird child. I'm going to have to keep repeating this all throughout this countdown. Donkey Kong Jr. was my very first video game that I ever played. I would watch my father play this so much that I could play it blindfolded. I would watch him play and study the jumps and moves he made, so then when it was my turn to finally play that final level, I was a master too. I would get so excited when he would get to the final level and pass the controller over to me. Popeye was a game I fondly remember my dad playing because he and I would also sit around on weekends and binge watch cartoons like Hanna-Barbera, Looney Tunes, and Popeye. When a game came out with the same namesake, we had to have it. I loved watching the familiar characters and tunes while you played. Anytime my dad would get the spinach, I would sing along to the Popeye tune. Ghosts and Goblins was a game I remember my dad spending hours playing in an attempt to beat it. I believe that game was also single-handedly responsible for teaching me such colorful vocabulary. I remember my dad getting so pissed off at this game and having to turn it off out of sheer anger. He never did beat it, but he did get to the end levels. Going back to that game as an adult, I can certainly add more colorful language than my dad did to my gameplays. I can't even get beyond the first or second levels. The Simpsons, Bart vs. the Space Mutants, was a game my dad had to have. He was a huge fan of The Simpsons at the time, and had to have everything and anything with their name on it. I always remember him trying to get beyond the first level, but the controls and the gameplay were just too crippling. He said he doesn't hate the game, and he still had fun playing it. For me, I mostly just enjoyed listening to the music and watching Bart run around saying, "Eat my shorts."
Eat my shorts.
Voice clips in games at that time were a huge deal. Rampage was a game I played on DOS, so when my dad got it for the NES, it was a big deal. We would sit around and take turns playing. He preferred George, but I always preferred Lizzie. I always got a kick out of demolishing buildings, eating people, drinking toilet water and spitting it out, and snatching helicopters out of the sky. This was one of the games that the two of us played a lot together.
So that was my top 10 list of the most memorable games that I played with my dad on the NES. Let me know what you guys thought of the video, and let me know what games you played with your parents when you were growing up. And until next time, guys, take care.
And now I'd like to take a moment out to thank my Patreon supporters, the SideQuest Gamer, Michael Carter, and Barclay Crazy. Thanks so much for your support. If anyone else would like to be a Patreon supporter of mine, the link is in the description below.